Will be for Mr. Zulfami. So you and both Fanit have talked about separating data from software. So in your view, what are the key value that we can get when we do so?
Great question. I think there's multiple different items. Again, I've mentioned about the 4 billion data points that gets processed in ExxonMobil per day. And being able to separate data from software means that you're not replicating those data. And as you can imagine, if you're trying to replicate all of those, the costs would just be very great. But at the end of the day, in terms of being able to separate data from the software, it's really going to be able to tackle the interoperability when it comes to either utilizing AI or utilizing any sort of Gen AI, as a matter of fact. So there's multiple things, but I think those are the two things in my book.
Thank you. So next question will be for Mr. Fanit. So you had covered about open asset digital twin, and in next steps we'll be looking at extending it to process data. So what are you interested to get from the extension?
Oh gosh. So I'm a process engineer by heart, right? By trade. I started as a process engineer. So the ability to move towards a visual way of working with our open asset digital twin, we have reality captures, but then be able to click an asset, look at the time series data, do fleet analytics. I'm excited of the ability to spend less time trying to collect data, manage data, and actually do real engineering and provide recommendations to my business teams and really add to the bottom line. I think that's what I'm really excited about. Where I believe I'm going to be surprised is how engineers today will use the ability that in ways that we didn't really think about, right? I think that's really the next level of opportunity that we see happening as we start linking up our process data to our reality captures.
Thank you. Question will be for Mr. Pascal. So how can AI enable and improve human teams' competencies in a lack of specialized workforce in industries?
Well, it's a good question when you talk about artificial intelligence because the first thing that you think about artificial intelligence that's gonna kill human jobs. And it's funny because on the beginning of the automation, when I started in my graduation in 2004, the first thing that people used to ask to me was, "Hey guy, are you studying something that's gonna kill people's jobs?" And that was not the point. But well, I think the AI at least in the first moment of the automation, you just acting like a supporter, we see a lot of engineers being released on the market every year after graduation, but without experience. So having an AI as a supporter, this can bring more certification for qualification for the engineers, and also a way of, how can I say that, these young engineers can feel part of huge and complex projects, because without having experience, sometimes this kind of engineers are not related to do complex projects, but having some kind of AI to help them as support may bring this feeling of being participant of something big. And then you have an increase of the knowledge of the engineers. And also, one very important thing is to automatize some tasks, because having this kind of action, engineers that are studying to make decisions, to think about how improve the things in the process, can have more focus on it, not only in just having some kind of programmation, these kind of things. So that's where I see that AI can improve the human teams to get better in automation systems.
Thank you. Next question will be for both Fanit and Zulfami. So are the industries moving fast enough to obtain more value from Gen AI in the space?
Great question. So I think just looking at the past 2 days, we see so many topics around AI. So I'm quite excited and happy to see really industry is receiving AI and adopting AI and is trying to move towards AI. But I do want to take a moment to consider, reflecting back on some of the messages that we've heard from our other speakers around, in order to get AI to really deliver value, we need to ensure that we really set the data foundation correctly, right? I think there was also a good quote yesterday around garbage in, garbage out. So how do we make sure that we spend time to ensure that our data is, good quality, open, interoperable, so that we can continue using AI as a fleet on scale and sustainable. Another message I think Fahmi also mentioned is we can't really use AI for each individual system and process, right? We really want to make sure that the data is linked between processes and then leverage AI to really connect all those different processes together and deliver insights.
Thank you. My question will be for Mr. Pascal. What are the challenges and opportunities on the legacy I/O integration in a totally OPC UA-based OPAS architecture?
Okay, this is a very common question, come from end users. Actually, I don't know if it was a coincidence to be here with ExxonMobil engineers, because the very first initiative from OPAS came from ExxonMobil. So, and I think a part of their message about having open, interoperable, and safe systems is what we have in our presentation about OPAS. But when you tell about OPAS architecture, it always comes, how can I connect systems, legacy systems, through OPC way? Actually, nowadays you have the definition of the OPAS signal as the standard signal that can be interchanged between the OPAS components in an OPAS architecture. So the interface for hardware and software are defined to receive it, to be processed, and what you do in your application is up to you. So you're developing a control application, having the interface, you can do whatever you want, or for other asset management, AI, data analysis, whatever. What you have now is the use of gateways, okay? You have the DCNs and you have the DCN IO gateways, which connect somehow the data from legacy system for standard communication protocols from field devices to this upper layer of the control of automation pyramid, let's say that. But we are seeing that to improve the performance in most critical systems and also to have more standardized signal, it's going to be the use of the OPAS signal from scratch. And that's something that we are pursuing between other vendors that are participating on OPAF. Because I have an OPAS system, it's a multi-vendor. If I come across in another vendor systems, the best way to integrate them is to speak the same language. So that's why I'm pursuing now.
Thank you. Now we'll open the platform for delegates. Please keep your questions short and crisp.
Hello. A great session.
Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, myself, Hemant Singh from Ekogawa. We understand and we have seen, right, the answer from the panelist. We are having the OPC wave which makes the connectivity, right? So connectivity is okay. The question goes to the modeling, information modeling, right? So how do you see, right? It should come from the OEM, it should come from the right solution provider, because in the end, connectivity is fine, but until we are having the contextualization to the assets or the process, then it makes more sense to move to the next step. As told by the Exxon folks, right? It's very important you keep your base ready so that we can take the advantage of AI. So where do you see and what message you give to the solution provider and the OEM with respect to the making the contextualization?
So I think, thanks for the question, right? When you're talking about being able to see in terms of where do we model or how do we actually do so, I feel that most part of it will need to go back to the conversation. Again, I think some of this conversation we may need to take offline after this, just so that I can go a bit deeper on that. But going back to what we're trying to get at, it's really being able to see data. So if, let's say, Yokogawa has the model that's done within Yokogawa itself, we kind of need to partner to see how do we actually link the data together. In terms of mapping and being able to do so, one of the things that we're trying to do inside product solution, refinery and all those is really being able to map out all of these items as a data product. So there's a separate thread altogether for us to be able to really make the linkages between applications, between data and all those. Those are going to sit in those data product model. But again, let's talk after this just to get into the details.
Very good session. This is Santosh from KBR. I have two questions, one for Zulfani and another one for Fanit. You talked about separating data and software, right? The biggest challenge is most of these softwares give out only abstracted data out. So what is the challenge and how do you address that challenge? And follow-up question is, most of the time the current systems might be a little more open compared to legacy systems. So are you just looking at brownfield plants or even the greenfield plants, right? And my next question to Fanit is basically, you talked about DRE and you said that as a process engineer you would love to use the new platform or new ways of working. What is the challenge or issues you're facing with the adoption? Have you seen any challenges with adoption of DRE into your existing day-to-day operations, or what's the success behind that? Thank you.
Let me tackle your second question first. No, we're not just looking at the green asset. Obviously, Exxon has been in the game for quite some time. For us to be able to really scale this out, we kind of need to make sure that we take the whole lot together, whether those are going to be your brown assets, the green assets, and all those together. The first part of your question, when it comes to, sorry, what was your first part of your question again?
How do we separate data from software?
Yeah. So again, you're definitely right. I think when we're talking about data and software, there's going to be two different areas, and there's going to be that layer in between, whether those are going to be your cache data and all of those areas. Those continue to be a problem that we need to tackle. And again, those are still why this is going to be a vision that we're trying to get across. We continue to play in that space on how we can really separate the two things together. There's a reason why we have the middle layer. The middle layer is typically because of the fact that we want the solution to perform fast, and you have the in-between layers. So those are some of the things that we still need to tackle, I agree. But yeah, so we don't have a solution for that yet.
So for my question around adoption, right? So I think about adoption tackling two areas. The first, culture, right? This is a new way of working. But what we saw, especially at the technology centers that I'm at, is engineers want to embrace this new way of working, right? The flip side is, how do we ensure that all the information, whether it's reality captures or even eventually processed data linkages, how do we ensure that the data is good quality, updated, and sustained, right? It doesn't make sense to have a laser scan or reality capture that's 5 years old, but what's the right frequency and what's the right sustainment procedures. Those are the governance process that we're looking at. We're trying to figure out what's the right balance between costs and value. But back to the first question, I do think people want to embrace it, right? It's just how can we keep up and how do we leverage it at scale?
Good morning. I'm Jazina Aziz from BHEL. My question is for Team ExxonMobil. How has connecting asset and process data changed the way the teams collaborate at your sites?
So it's a journey for us. I wouldn't say we've solved the puzzle. And I think our key message today is we need, industry to come together and help us figure this out. I think it's going to revolutionize the way that we do work, just like all the different, industrial revolutions that we've seen in the past. But, again, the key message is help us achieve that vision around getting our digital twin set up, getting our digital twin linked to process data, enabling new opportunities for whether it's remote engineering or further analytics, leveraging AI across different processes and systems.
Yeah, if I may, just to add on to what Pani had mentioned, right? With the world changing, even when we're talking about, remote engineers and engineers not being at site, we're looking at all of this efficiency in terms of how do we operate the plant better or more efficiently. We are going to come up with tons of additional use cases. As you saw in the video itself with the current digital reality ecosystem, they are able to walk through the plant to look at equipments, to look at, the size-wise, being able to plan on what they're going to work on for turnarounds, for example. Having process data is going to be key for them to be able to do more. Right now, it's still limited, and that's why we are sort of advocating for this to be including process data for us to be able to achieve more items there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Saurabh Shukla. I look after the strategy for intelligent operations for Schlumberger. I think my question is to Fanit and Zulfami. We have worked with ExxonMobil quite a bit on several. Now, two questions, I think very relevant to the context in India. The first is I see you have this broad and fantastic vision. Across the scale, throughout the world, you're trying to build a cyber-physical system and then overlaying it with real-time process data. And this is all happening in the cloud. Now, we see a lot of inertia across the globe where this is a big security concern. So my first question is, how and why Exxon is so comfortable with this idea that we can have everything in the cloud and it will be secure, it will generate tremendous value at a good price point. So that is number one. The second is that as a process engineer, Fanit, I think you would know that getting insights is just the first step. Closing the loop from insight to action is where the value multiplier really comes in. So I understand OADT is a journey. You are now moving towards from data to insights, where you have the process data. How are you planning to take it from insights to action? Are you considering something where remote operations and autonomous operations will be enabled through OADT? So thank you.
On the first question around, comfort is really leadership, right? I think the message that leadership has shared with us is if we don't compete and innovate to win, we're going to be left out, right? So that's a message has trickled down from the top levels of management or leadership all the way down to the working levels is embrace change because change will always happen. On the second message around, what was it? Can you repeat the second one? Sorry.
So from insights to action.
Perfect, thank you. Thanks for jogging my memory. You are 100% right. So in my last role as a supervisor for a team of 15 engineers, where we start adding to the bottom line is taking our data, processing it, doing analytics on it, but only until you make a change, you move a valve, you change your process operations, is only when you start collecting and delivering value. How do we ensure that we also, in our scope of delivering OADT and process data, how do we capture those things? I think those are, as we develop solutions, the use cases are the ones that drive where do we go next, right? And for use cases, what is the real value play there? We can't do everything now. So what are the biggest value plays that we want to achieve, whether it's from process optimizations to turnaround planning. I think that's where we really need to focus on saying that it's not a nice to have, but what do we need to do to make sure that both the engineers can collect the data, interact with data, but also enabling them, give them the tools to make the recommendations at play. Like you say, we're still on a journey. We're really trying to figure it out. What this allows us to do is provide the foundation to enable what you are also saying that we need to go to, right? But without the foundation in play, we can't even start talking about providing recommendations at the real time. Thanks.
Thank you all. I think we need to stop here basically because we have planned a networking session now before lunch. The lunch is at 1 o'clock. We have planned a networking session so we can interact during the break before lunch. That's number one. Second is post-lunch we have a huge session on OPA. The whole session has been conceived by ExxonMobil along with the OPA co-chair, Mr. Ravindra Jagashia. So all of you please join for that session post-lunch. And in the meantime, please have a networking because after the OPA session, we'll just have a cup of tea and then close the day. So please have a networking now for this, the next four, including the lunch time. So we'll see you again. Thank you. Thank you again for the speakers.